Hey, Slandra, y'all. Welcome to Scotch on the Bayou. And it looks like my microphone is actually working. Hooray! Oh, how about take two and let's do this whole Pete thing one more time, but for real, right? Hey, everyone. So glad that y'all are here. So many of you jumped in so early tonight. And for whatever reason, the avatar, the people's aliases are not working. So try to figure out who everybody is. I think we know. I think we know the usual suspects. But just want to say thanks for all the patience, well wishes. Technology is great when it works, and it's basically a paperweight when it does not. So I'm excited about tonight to talk about Pete. This misunderstood, often ostracized, but most influential way of making an impact on whiskey that we get to talk about tonight. And also have some really big news I want to share with you all. We'll do that in a little bit. But I want to say hey to everyone. I see Sugar Kitty is here. Yes, so we can still give Pete. If Pete's a good guy, give him a chance. He really is. He's so misunderstood, right, Sugar Kitty? Truly, Pete gets a bad rap at sometimes. Those of us who are adventurous on the get go have learned that Pete's an amazing individual with many different personalities, depending on where Pete comes from, right? Pete had Frank. Thank you for popping in. And I know you'll be watching the replay, and it will actually be a replay this week. But I mean, is there another guy who epitomizes the love of Pete than Frank, aka Pete Head? Coming in from Europe, so that's why he's sleeping right now, y'all. So good morning when you're watching this, Frank. I appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. Kathy's in. Yay. Hopefully she'll be back. Got company in town sharing the whiskey. Absolutely. You can always catch it on the replay. Kathy, thanks for all the support. Jimmy Jazz is here. Evidently, he's big Jimmy Jazz. I love that. There we go. Big Jimmy Jazz. I don't know why that's happening. That's where they change stuff every day and every week. Jennifer is in. Oh, Kathy is back in. Hey, my friend, I got you. I got you a couple pictures up here. You're gonna have to look how cute and adorable we look in a peat field here soon. Marky, my Mark is back from his trip to England. He found all kinds of treasures when he was over there, and he was traipsing around fields with his metal detector. If you haven't seen the comments, finding treasure and precious treasure to him, but not necessarily to the crown because the crown's got plenty of what he found. However, he was traipsing all over Norwich, so northeast a bit of London, close to the North Sea, and in barley fields. So he was very close to where crisp malts are, to kind of give you a point of reference from that. I think that was really pretty cool. Kind of full circle there, you know. Tom's in. Good to see you. Again, thankfully, I understand who those 2 feet belong to, because the name doesn't help me out. But yeah, y'all, thanks for being in. I appreciate it. Troopers here. Hey, buddy. I hope you're doing well. Are you on? Are you at home or are you in offshore? Hope you're safe wherever you are, my buddy. Um, but yeah, just seeing how everyone is. I want to see what everyone kind of like what you think about Pete. I think I have a pretty good idea about Pete lovers on this channel. Um, for sure. I know Tom, there's quite a few of folks that are going to go over for Jimmy Jazz is going. And of course, Graham. Hey, Graham. See you here. Hey, friend. Um, we'll be at the Glasgow Whiskey Festival. Tom's going over and he's definitely got some. I know he's going to spend some time on Islay, I'm pretty sure. But he's going to be busy, busy, busy. So that's awesome. Yeah, next year. Got a few things going on. Again, I'll explain here in a little bit, but we had to table that trip to next time. Hopefully, March is an option. We'll see, but definitely, Glasgow Whiskey Festival is one of those things. It's an amazing festival in itself. It truly, truly is. It was very overwhelming when I went the first time, but it's for me, it's more of about the people that you know that you're going to see there or see around the other events that are kind of bookended around the Glasgow Whiskey Festival, because the festival itself is like what, 3 hours, and you're in there, you're like honing in on things that we don't ever get to see, and trying to taste moderately so that you can remember them. But it's missing out on the people, not so much missing out on the whiskey, if you know what I mean. So, but I also know my limits. It's great to see Mark JG is in, Taste and Sensibilities in. Awesome, guys. Great to see everybody. Taste and Sensibility loves peat. What's not to love? So misunderstood, right? Very, very good. It's so good to see everyone. Chuck's in, Malt Minion, yay. Great seeing everybody. So Troopers got Kuboken. Ha! I just happened to have some of that right here on for tonight. Peter's in. Hey. Oh, it's got some of the Delback cease and desist. This is okay. That sounds pretty tasty. Yeah. So I don't know what thing you have the bottle of it. Okay. That sounds really good. So I love how everybody's in. We're having fun. But we're going to go into peat. So what is it? All of those things. Peat, glorious peat. I just kept thinking that almost in a Oliver Twist kind of sing song, Peat, glorious peat. That this smoky, earthy, it goes there, and then it can go off into some other tangents. It can get medicinal or iodine, or it has all kinds of things that depending on where it comes from, depending on how much was used or the method, and then how far the distillation went, all these different factors go into it, but it's an agent for flavor, right? And it truly does get a bad rap by those who are not used to things, or perhaps I would even say some that don't have as an open mind about something that sounds that foreign that would flavor something that you drink. So we'll kind of get into all of that. But I want to know, are you team Pete or no Pete? So light up the comments about Pete or no Pete. And if you do like peat, what's your favorite type of peat? Is it an Islay? Is it a Highland? Is it I don't care as long as it's peat, I'm there for it. So yeah, let me know. And I'm going to pour my first dram of peat. This bottle is an Impex bottling of Ardmore. So Ardmore is, not exactly a strong suit of, certainly not an Islay, but it has a walloping 59.3. It's 13 years old and refill bourbon, selected by Mr. Sam Filmus. And let's see. That was kind of anticlimactic. This one I bought last summer in Houston on the way to see buddies at the Dummies bottling of their Andalusia. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh good. Troopers in North Louisiana in a house. Well, that's good. Oh, and you don't get a lot of peat on the nose. You don't get a lot of smoke on the nose on this Ardmore. But man, it's gonna come out on the palate. I promise you. I find that a lot in Ardmurkins too. You kind of like get a whiff of something, but as soon as you take a swig, you gonna know. Like it's gonna say, "Hey, yeah, I'm here." Hey, yeah. 59.7. Whew, it's there. Ooh wee. Yeah. 59.3. What's point four among friends? But the peat adds an element. Again, you have an idea about what a bourbon matured whiskey is. The element that peat adds to it for me, and I say for me because we all taste things differently, right? And for me, peat, I try to designate or differentiate the difference or differentiate the elements of earth and smoke into two different things, to where I want to try to get my taste buds to hone in on what is the earthiness of the peat or the dirt or the material of the peat influence, and then what is the influence in the whiskey that burning that peat or smoking that malt had to do with it. Um, Many times, like a Talisker tin, I just get campfire. I don't get a lot of earthiness on it. I just get a campfire taste to that salty, malty campfire. To me, that is a Talisker tin. Um, so yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what all you all think about this. I'm just so excited. So we've got lots and lots and lots and lots of team Pete's. That's awesome. So Graham, as you know, I have to say, dude, really. So you got to have some amazing Brora and Klein leashes, not known for their peat, tasting in Edinburgh last Sunday from the 70s and onward. Wow, wow, wow. For all the people who get to do something, that makes my heart happy that you get to taste something that like that, Graham, because I know how much you appreciate that. That's fabulous. I'm really happy for you. Not jealous at all. Sugar Kitty is definitely a team Pete. Peter's a repeat of the Pete. I love that. We're all jealous. We're all jealous. Hey, Cindy. Good to see you. So you've got the Silkies. Oh yeah, Kelpies. And Pete Reek. Love it. Good stuff. Mark JG loves him some Pete, and he's all about that Kilhoman life. He is. He is Mr. Kilhoman, if you did not know. I have one of those here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have 14 bottles of peated whiskey. We ain't getting to all these tonight, but I wanted to get a little collection so we can kind of talk about some of the variations and how different this all tastes from one another. Taste and Sensibility is having an Old Pulteney 15. So yeah, you're not doing a whole lot of peat there, but boy, you got the salty malty briny. I love it. Love it. So you're true, so true. The differences between Isla peat and a Highland peat are night and day. They really, really are. For sure. Kathy is ready to pour Ardbeg 10, quintessential peat, right? Also likes any of the peated Irish and American single malt or even bourbon. Kathy, have you had the Striker that Andalusia does? It's a Texas whiskey, a single malt. So good. So Jimmy puts out a really interesting point that he likes peat when he's in the mood, and it strikes me, and it depends a lot on the weather. And now it's peat season in New England. Well, we had a little cold fronts coming through down here on the Bayou, so I can imagine you're right chilly up there. And it's kind of like when you make gumbo. If it's gumbo weather, it's usually peat weather. So I definitely understand that, Jimmy. I do. Look at our friends from Florida, Scotch drinkers only. Y'all, they got a big old bag of tricks coming up that is just actually full of treats. And I'm hoping we can work something out because they are bringing some more really cool expressions into the U.S. exclusively. So hopefully we can talk about that in the upcoming show for sure. Hey, guys, I hope Howard and Melissa, y'all are doing well. So that's an interesting point, Mark. It took you 3 years to like peat. Um, so I don't know, like how you all got into peat or what your first dram of peat is. I find, like, if I'm talking to my bourbon friends and they say, "Oh, you like Scotch," they immediately go to a bad experience of someone gave them a peated Scotch for the first time they ever had whiskey or any single malt whiskey was a peated dram. And and that really gives a disservice to the dram. It gives a disservice to Scotch as a category. Um, if if you serve something to someone you know that they may not really like, I like to try to ease people into peat. Um, but my first experience was that first trip I went over, not really being into whiskey a whole lot. Let me sip. Hmm. Building my whole trip around a music festival on Jura, going to Oban, you know the story, go to Kennecrag, get on a ferry to go to this island called Islay, because then I had to drive through Islay to get on another ferry that's tiny, by the way, like 4 cars can fit on it, to get to another island called Jura for this music festival. So when I get to Islay, and I did thankfully know how to say Islay, not say Islay, but when I got to Islay, they had all these other distilleries. I was like, oh wow, well, I've got a little time to kill. I'll go to this one called Lafroig. And I mean, so I went from Oban to Lafroig in one day. This is one of my favorite Lafroigs is Lore. Um, y'all have heard me say this. This is chocolate covered stewed cherries with burnt marshmallow. I get more smoke on this one than I even get peat, as opposed to an Ardbeg where I get some earthiness, the briny maritime earth on that one. But going to Lafroig, um, being able to go and see something completely different and seeing all of at that time they were very much into um their advertisement about it being a robust drink. um I just was like, this is so very different. And when I got to the tasting, I was like, wow, this is great. A lot of people will ask me, how in the world, why in the world did you like peat right away? And I did. I mean, I had something so nice and delicate at Oban, and then a day and a half later, I'm at Lafroig drinking Lafroig, and I think it was the 10 that they gave us at the distillery. I ended up bringing back a bottle of the quarter cask because I liked that taste better. Um, but I was like, I'm Southern. We smoke everything down here. We smoke everything. Mark has a smoker, a pellet smoker. And let me tell you what, his brisket is off the charts. He's done chicken, he's done hamburgers, he's done a pork butt roast that'll make you want to slap your mama. It's so good. Okay. We just smoke things down here. Our sausage is smoked. It was a way for non refrigerated places in the deep south to preserve meat. You just had a smokehouse. I mean, the hams that are smoked down here, that was just a way of life of being able to preserve meat that people that just grew up on. Now, I mean, we didn't do that in the olden days of growing up, but it's, you know what I'm saying? It's just something within our culture in the South that we just ate smoked meats and different types of things that were smoked. And so to me, the idea of something being smoked, even though it was liquid, wasn't foreign. What was foreign was the element of that earthiness to it. That we don't usually roll our food around in dirt and then smoke it. So that was something that was interesting to me. And it was purely from my palate, another layer of flavor. So it wasn't off-putting at all when I had my first peat. It was actually quite delectable. It was lovely, lovely, lovely. Um, so, oh, So Sugar Kitty is talking about a Lechag and Tokadat. So that would be the Bunahaven. I'm pretty sure you mean, if I remember correctly, what that one is, because mostly they do those Gaelic names that I absolutely butcher with this accent. But yeah, that one's really tasty. Um, so enjoyed peat right away. See, now you enjoy differences, and you can kind of pick that out after you've had a few and had a few different ones, right? I love it, love it, love it, love it. Yeah, I know. I've got like about that much in my striker bottle. It is so very good. See, Kathy knows. I think Graham, I brought you a striker at one point. I'm trying to remember if I did. I'm not really sure. Yeah, no joke, Tom. Living Souls is a big one. I'm so happy they're bringing that over. If you haven't heard, this is one big news. Is Scotch Drinkers Only is going to start bringing over the Living Souls independent bottlings, and super stoked about that. I hope Graham's got my 2 bottles of 99 and 1. But that's a particular one that had when I was over in March, that I unfortunately did not buy to bring home with me, but got it later. That was 18-year-old Lecheg that they had an oops and added a little bit of grain. So it's 99% 18-year Lecheg and 1% grain. And it is spectacular, absolutely spectacular. So yeah, good stuff. Rick's in. Hey, I know this man likes some peat because this man gave me this sample of Octomore. Oh, good to see you guys. Definitely get to reek of some peat, and if you drink enough peat, the next day you still reek of some peat. I'm just saying, especially how much if you are all week long on Islay. We definitely have to do that for sure. Goodness, I can't keep up. So Mark JG says the first dram that he had was a Lafroig 10, and it tasted and smelled like an old dirty nursing home. Oh, Mark. And then it took you 3 more years to make the leap. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. I know Jennifer and her dad planned an entire trip to go to Ardbeg and had never even had Ardbeg or a peated whiskey. They went and bought a bottle of it and sat down and goes, "Holy smoke, this is awful." we're going to Scotland and on a purposeful trip to this place, and they couldn't stand it. And now she is the biggest. There she is. She's the absolutely biggest Ardbeg fan you've ever met. It is so funny. I absolutely loved it. That's great. That is so great. So when you think about what peat is, we'll get into there. We'll add that up there. The peat, glorious peat. This is a gorgeous sight, y'all. Just the idea of the open area of Islay and just stacks and stacks and stacks of peat bricks is just amazing. I can smell this photo. So these I took when Jennifer and I actually were at the Islay Whiskey Academy, and we got to cut peat that day. But I mean, looking at what peat is, that partially decomposed organic matter, it's everything that was living in that place that just has eroded, decomposed, and just compressed down for a millennia. I mean, it's old. So, it is like a fossil fuel. It's in the sense that it is just old and decomposed. It's dirt in your head because it comes out of the ground, but it really is far more than that. It's whatever was growing that died, that grew, that died, that added to it. And as it goes down into the soil and further, then it's more compact and becomes a fuel after a while. I mean, it's harvested, it's dried. The bricks come out more like sludgy mud pie. Um, they come out whole like this if you cut them right. They'll get a little wiggly, but you put them out and you start to let them dry, and they can stack like this. And then, it was used as a fuel source for heating homes, and some of the houses on Isla still use it to this day. And but how it's used in whiskey is it's put into a furnace and it's used to dry out the malted barley, right? So when you think about how old, when you look, say you've got this area where the grass is, and so when this is cut from here on up, it's cut and pulled away, and then here down is what's actually cut for the peat. And this first layer, this first section of soil is then put back on top of it to keep all of it working, and keep it all to keep the sustainability. Sustainability of peat is a hot topic because this is carbon. And so there's a lot of rattling about whether or not whiskey should even really be using peat anymore. I don't think we have enough time to talk about that all tonight, but I would like to kind of get your thoughts on that. But being able to see the sections was so interesting to me. You got this trough of water here because it's holding water, because it truly is you're cutting a gully through the field. When you walk through these fields, they're all different levels depending on how often they've cut the peat there. This particular field, if you've been to Islay, is across from the airport. There's a peat shed on that field with my name on it because I got 3 blocks of peat out without them falling off the spade. So, I can cut peat. Look at these two, right? We look like the Vanna White of a peat field, right? So, of course, that is me holding precious peat, and those are freshly cut bricks behind us. Beautiful, beautiful day. And my great friend, Miss Jennifer here, with her lovely peat brick as well. So much fun. So much fun. That's for sure. But Islay peat definitely is very different. So when I look at some different Islay peats, so we'll kind of go into that. Let's see. Actually, before we go into all the different types, I do want to bring you up to speed on some big news. My Patreons already know that there's an era of change coming with Scotch on the Bayou. Scotch on the Bayou will always be Scotch on the Bayou. However, Scotch on the Bayou will not be on the Bayou very long now. Mark and I, as most of you know, this has been a pretty rough year for us in the sense that I lost my mom in May, and we're all doing really pretty good as best we can. My brother's doing really well, and my dad's doing well. So very thankful for him and his health. And my brother is amazingly helpful and watching over him very, very well. Mark and I are kind of been thinking about what our next steps are going to be and where we want to be and to enjoy our retirement. He's been retired. I'm still working. I'm still going to be working for a while. But the type of job I have has some wiggle room on where it can be. And because of that, and because we're getting to an age and a different chapter in life. We are actually going to be relocating by the end of the year to Tennessee, the Bayou. We're leaving the Bayou, and it's kind of crazy to even say that. It's highly conflicting to me, mainly because my family is still here. But what we're wanting to do is to get to our next spot where it will life will be a little bit easier on us, with the elements particularly. It's hot, y'all. That I call them the three H's: heat, humidity, and hurricanes. I mean, Mark JG can tell you, Trooper can tell you, living in Louisiana ain't for you gotta either be crazy or you gotta be stalwart about it. But we've just come to a time where we want to get closer to some family that's up in Tennessee. I was actually born there, so it's kind of a homecoming to an extent. Um, Closer to some of my dad's side of the family that he's really would like to be closer to. In the event, we have my dad. I want him to have the best place for um for him to be with us. And so we are actually going to be relocating and moving to Middle Tennessee, almost smack dab between Nashville and Knoxville. We're going from 56 feet above sea level in Baton Rouge to 1,900 feet above sea level. We're going to have 4 seasons. I won't have to buy my fall foliage at a craft store anymore. We'll actually have trees on the property that we're buying that has, fall leaves on it. And like I said, it's always going to be Scotch on the Bayou. I'm taking the best of Louisiana with me. I love Louisiana, the culture. I love the food, the joie de vivre, the joy of life. But for our next chapter of life, we need some slack and we need some relief. And so we're making that big move at the end of the year. So the channel will be going quiet for a little while till we can get things moved and get things settled up there, and then we'll be rocking and rolling again. We'll just be talking about Louisiana stuff and the Bayou and all those things up on the Cumberland Plateau. And it'll be interesting to learn that culture as well. I have already found out I need to take some seasoning in my purse most every restaurant we've gone to up there. But we have had so much fun at the camp. We're going to be selling the camp. We'll sell our home after the first of the year, but we're going to be doing that to set us up for success in our next chapter. And I'll be running the roads back and forth. My family is here. I'm going to be back every couple of weeks or so. But anyway, yeah, it's kind of crazy. But I wanted to let you all know what was going on. It's a big lifetime. So that is the reason I'm not in Glasgow Whiskey Festival in 2 weeks, because we've got a whole lot going on for sure. So yeah, but I wanted to share that with everybody. More on another day. So yeah, we'll get back into that. I'm kind of catching up on I love it. Seeing Cookeville, very close to Cookeville, Peter. Yeah, very close. And it's beautiful up there. It really is. Cookeville and Crossville, all very, very close. Yep. It's about an hour and a half from Jack Daniels. It's about 2 hours from getting up into Kentucky. If you want some corn syrup, you can do that. But it's mainly, the Chattanooga whiskey actually does some single malts. So it's Corsair is in Nashville. So there's going to be some interesting distilleries to kind of find out more about. Jack Daniels does do a single malt. So will be interesting to seeing that. It would be Tennessee whiskey on the Bayou. No, it's going to be Scotch on the Bayou from the plateau. And it's funny because, Graham, I mean, you're in Scotland. Do people even know what a bayou is over there? Are they going to know what the plateau is? I mean, I'm not so worried about that. It's I did have an issue with the light bulbs in this house that we're buying has really blue lights, and I wanted on the warm light because that blue LED light's just atrocious. And he said, well, there's a little switch on the light bulb and the ceilings are so high. I was like, I don't want to get on a ladder. I don't want Mark on a ladder. Can you do that for me before we buy the house? He's like, well, I said, I'll provide you gumbo once we get settled. And he looked at me and he goes, okay. So I'm already bartering with Louisiana food. I mean, that's what we do. So let's talk about different types of peat. So first mine, Islay peat, right? We got some different choices. Here's Mark JG. Here's a shout out for you, my dear. Jennifer's had this. This is a Fino Sherry matured Kilhoman. Yum. This is one tasty dram. With the Fino is really interesting all by itself. Adding an element of the peat to it. I mean, the peat, and Mark, JG, you may know more than anybody about, well, you and Graham, the peat source for Kilhoman. I don't know where, if they get their peat on the actual farm. But if they do, it's much higher elevation than the area that, like this bog that I've been showing, that is a Lagavulin and a Lefroy bog. That we dug peat where Lefroy and Lagavulin peat comes from. Then you have Ardbeg, the oogie. Oh, the oogie. Yeah. So that's a completely different, I almost think like a Kilhoman is more of a heather or a Highland, not really Highland Park, but it's a lighter version of peat for me than Ardbeg, the Port Charlotte. This one, this is such a good dram. Those to me are Lefroy, Ardbeg particularly, are much more maritime and oily, seaweedy kind of flavor than a Lagavulin or even Kilhoman. I've not had enough of Ardnahoe to know what that peat is like. So Graham, Tom, Rick, some of y'all know I've had enough Ardnahoe to be able to nail that flavor down. Let's see. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So the plateau is part of the same land formation that is Scotland, and both formed in the Atlantic, what separated. It's part of the Appalachian. The Appalachian area is so much like the Highlands. That I've definitely heard that before. Cool. So Kathy, the 5 inaugural. That's nice to be able to have that. Could never get that in my area. So hey, Rick, sorry. Should regarding the Scottish distillers continue using peat if for Carchus you ever change flavor or profiles because of no more peat, you'd be very angry. I think that's the big thing. They're working on legislation, if it hasn't happened already, to not use peat in agricultural uses anymore. So when that happens, there's the likelihood that the highest peat users are going to be the whiskey groups, the whiskey producers. I know it's for Westland has their own peat section in Washington State, and they are very adamant about only using so much to be able to, preserve that. It's part of their overall mantra of, sustainability and producing their product. And, that's a very West Coast seems to have a more of a mindset to doing that for sure. But if, like what else would they use? I mean, there's the Icelandic way of doing things with some sheep stuff. I know Jennifer again has done that too. Has used some of that, had some of that, brought me some of that. But yeah, um, yeah, it's just it's interesting to see how that would be. Then so Isla, I think, is the most well known. We have I'm playing with so over close to Isla is our wee tune, the wee tune of Campbelltown. This is one of my faves. The peat in progress, heavily peated Kilkerran. Oh, y'all. Again, I get the brine, but I get the minerality off of this too that I don't necessarily get as much off of Isla Peats. Oof. Is it blasphemy to have Kilkerran in a Freud glass? See there. Peter, I'm gonna have to catch up with all your posts here, friend. But when you hike on the plateau, you may find the remnants of the old moonshine stills in the infamous Thunder Road on Kingston Pike in Knoxville. Well, West Tennessee is where I was from. You can't have three more different places. I mean, west, east, and middle. It's not central, I've learned. It's middle Tennessee. As you know, if you're from Chattanooga, for sure. We are almost in the Eastern time zone, but we're still central, thank God. And yeah, there's lots of stills. The Smoky Mountains too are not just smoky from fog. There's stills up in them hills for sure. Yep. Is it Floki? Yeah. The sheep stuff. Mark JG. Oh, come on, live a little, friend. Oh, so this heavily peated peat in progress is still cooking, right? Oh, this has more of a sour note to it. Not as much smoke on the nose at all. More smoke on the flavor, on the taste. Pretty hot. What is this? It's like 57.4. Okay, not too bad. But it's not really medicinal, but I get on Campbelltown drams, particularly Glen Scotia, I have mighty and mineralic. I think Graham, this is one that I got when Mark and I were with you at SMWS. I do get a minerally taste off of a lot of Campbelltown drams. The smoke, like a Victoriana from Glen Scotia, I'll get that for sure. A char on it, it's not so much the earthiness. I get the funk. I get the funk from Campbelltown Funk on this for sure. Oh, Kathy, you have some really good friends if you shared the Victoriana. You are a good person. But that is even interesting to me. I mean, we could do peat like for a week. We could do peat forever. There's so many variations. So you have something like, the peat in progress, heavily peated. So that phenol, I probably should look that up. So the phenol level of something heavily peated is going to be pretty high. I would say probably in the 50 to 70 parts per million, um, until you get into the 200 something parts per million for an octomore. Um, but even that flavor compound to it is going to be um, very different depending on the distillation and how old it is. Um, if you've been able to have some 20-plus-year-old peated whiskey, it mellows big time as it ages. Um, I think we look at something like a 5-year-old Ardbeg Scorch, or a Wee Beastie. That's it. That 5 years is peat. A young whiskey can handle a raucous peat. It really can. It's almost, I don't want to say it masks the flavor, but it gives enough of a punch to where the harshness of the youth of the whiskey is not as abrasive. Does that make sense? At least to me. Um, but as peat mellows as it is maturing and the whiskey is maturing, that peat doesn't punch as hard as it did in a younger whiskey, in my opinion. Um, that's that's true. Okay. Taste and sensibility. There are some peat in progress at Calandros. Wow. I'm trying to remember where I ended up getting this. I think maybe Kevin gave me that one. Trying to remember. Um, but yeah. So Graham says that Campbelltown uses a Highland peat. Okay. So Highland peat's so very, very different than an Islay peat, right? One point I want to make about Campbelltown too. Campbelltown or any of these others, when you look at it, is the different cask maturations with the element of peat. This is one of my absolute faves, and it is a long grow 15-year Pinot Noir cask. So when you have, again, so we're going to, Campbelltown's using that Highland peat, more heather, more woody, not the marine dense gradu, as we say down here, but more of the lighterness and floral peat, um, with the wine influence is just out of sight. I'm probably going to have to pour a little bit of this. Ooh wee, I'm so happy. Man, that Kilcairn is good. So let's just, the color. Look at this color. Just yum. So this one comes in at 51.4. Again, aged 15 years. Long grow red. Smoky berries. Smoky cherry. It's a little tart on the nose. So this one's coming. Let me get a little fresh water. This one definitely has that wine aspect to it, but it's you get more of the wine influence on the tannins, a little sweet up front, very dry on the end. But the peat, the earthiness is here on this. It's a little bit more pungent, actually, than the heavily peated version. And I think that's probably how it's working with the wine influence, with the tannins and that kind of real dry tartness of it. So very good. So very, very good. Um, so yeah, so you've got that. When you think about the peat, um, Orkney peat, that is definitely more heather. There's not too many trees or wood on Orkney. Um, this Highland Park 15. So such a great example. It's more herbal, um, floral, the heather, that peat again is lighter. I would say that the Highland peat um, is more of a light. Um, I think the wood element has a lot to do with that, and it's more because of the wood element. I get more smoke off of a Highland peat than I do off of an Islay peat. Islay peats, I get more of the earthiness, either um, a kind of a richness to it or a marine medicinal kind of seaweedy, briny earthiness to it with a chaser of smoke. To me, that's the smoke is secondary on an Islay, where it's primary on a Highland peat. Again, only from what I'm tasting, not necessarily what anybody else is tasting. Um, so yeah, so you've got those. And the thing too is that peat isn't just for those particular areas. You would think Speyside is not something known for peat, but all of the different regions are doing something with peat. And you've got I keep going. So Cabocan. So this is the 15-year sherry peated Oloroso sherry casks. The 2023 edition. Shout out to Peter Lee for grabbing this one for me. And then I told y'all I had 14 bottles up here. I'm clinking and clanking around. Then you have something like this is our buddy Zach Andrews. I don't think he's on tonight, is he? This one is particularly peat week. Used to be week of, it is now week of peat. Now this is an older bottle of peat week, and they got a cease and desist. Cease and desist. There we go. You don't want to do a deceased cease and desist order on using peat week because is it Westland? Somebody over here uses it. But yeah, 14-year on this one. This one is the 2003 vintage. And I had a couple of these bunkered mainly on the fact that Zach was having a cow about how good they are. But the Balvenie, something that you don't really think. So this is what's used in the smoky monkey shoulders. And truly, they just make it once a year during the week, 1 week. And then they do the clean out of the stills and they start all over again with their regular distilling. Another bottle. Isn't it funny? Like every time I look at these bottles, I think about where I was. Like, oh, Graham, we were with you at SMWS when we bought that one. Oh, that one was from Calandros. This one was from when I went to Texas. This is another Graham bottle. This was when we went to Calendar that day, Graham, and I got the Mickeltor. So, and I'm sure I butchered that as well. But this is Billy's Spirit. As part of Glenallachie, Billy Walker decided I'm going to put out a 5-year whiskey. Again, 5-year handling peat, and a chinkapin, which is really kind of funny, a chinkapin oak cask. So that is really pretty funny when you look at the aspect of Speyside getting really into the peat. And then this particular one, speaking of Speyside, the Fumar. That is another one. Let me do that. There we go. And the Fumar. That is another example of a peat, smoky, peaty, um, non-typical Islay version of it. So we've gone through the different types, the phenols, or the parts per million of the phenols. Um, it's really interesting to see how, when you're malting this, let me throw this up here real quick. So this is Lafroig, and you know, a fiery peaty punch to the throat. Yeah, that's what it could be, right? Um, and I think there's a misnomer from some folks of, like, what would you, when you see peat burning, there's not flame. I mean, it is like you could put your hand in there and it's gonna be warm, but it's not gonna burn you. Um, and that smoke is what's going up into the kiln above, to the perforated floor that the malted barley has been laid out, and it's being dried by and fumigated, if you will, by the phenols in the smoke, and it's just absorbing, the grain is absorbing that flavor, which, you can have it at various levels of phenols. You can put an order into a malting place that will be able to deliver you whatever ppm that you need to make your whiskey. But after it's distilled, and depending on how it's matured, that's still going to have a big effect on how that is how it tastes, right? And then when it's this hard brick over here. I think this was at Kilhoman. I ended up absconding a little piece, bringing it home. But our person who was showing us how to cut peat was having a birthday, so they made him a birthday cake that looked like a piece of cut peat. How cool is that, right? Um, it was really neat, and just this idea of this brick of decomposed dirt, dried out, could have such an enormous flavor on what is ultimately in this glass, is it's truly quite fascinating. And I say this all the time. If I had known how much fun chemistry could be as it related to distillation, I would have paid far more attention, for sure. Oh goodness. So yeah. Let's see. On catching up. So Graham says that Highland Park does have its own Orkney Island peat source. If I get a little briny, but not like I do off of some of the Islas. Well, and I say I get briny on some of the Islas. I get more seaweedy on, as opposed to Talisker, that I get a more briny note. Though I don't, even Talisker, I don't get more of the earthiness on that. I get more of the smoke and brine. If Jim was on tonight, he is Mr. Highland Park. I would really love to see. So, Jim, if you're watching in the afterwards, leave a comment about what you think about how much brine is in the peat of Highland Parks. Love to know about that. It's interesting to see. That's a good paradigm there, Rick, when you're talking about Port Ellen, the maltings at Port Ellen, which is a Diageo owned establishment, how much they're going to be supplying Kilhoman anymore, considering they have now Port Ellen is now opened up. That's what I was thinking, that they were going to start phasing those out. But times are kind of hard. So I'm kind of wondering if they would just kind of keep going, because production has definitely gone down, for sure, I would say. Hmm. Get out. Are you really? So, yeah, I bet you are having a love geeking out over all of this, friend. I bet you do. That's I would definitely have paid more attention, I think, to Miss Buck's chemistry cast. That's for sure. Um, but yeah. So, looking at peat, and it's not just an Isla thing, and you know, introducing someone to peat, my bourbon night friends, for example, or if I do a tasting and I don't really know the palates of the people that are going to be at the tasting, I will throw in something that has a kiss of peat, I say. Um, one of the things we didn't talk about are blends, and this is one of my faves. Also, would be a peat monster from Flaming Heart. Compass Box just peat so very well. A lot of, I want to say a lot of their peat is Lafroig actually, but the Orchard House, is it Orchard House, Orchard Tree? What is it? It's Orchard Tree, right? That that one is a really nice little entry into peat. Um, so yeah, so what would some of your favorite introductions to peat for non Scotch drinkers be? Um, you could go big or go home and give them an Ardbeg 10. Depends on how well you liked them. Um, but a Kilkerran 12 is not a bad way to start. Um, Maybe even an Aaron, or um, I don't know that a Port Charlotte would do it. Maybe a Bunnahabhain. Maybe something not quite. I mean, there's so many Bunnahabhains that just have a very kiss of peat, if any. So when you look at that, I think if you get someone who's, ask them, do you like mezcal? If they drink tequila and they like a mezcal, then they can get in the frame of mind of what a peated whiskey would be. Um, but if you know for sure, I mean, I just really think it's important to know what people like, and not necessarily give them something that they wouldn't like. Or I like to be able to challenge people in a tasting, but I don't want to turn them completely off to whiskey, especially not single malts. Uh, so I went from being here where we have a town, a street sit in a city of New Orleans called Bourbon, to bourbon and Tennessee whiskey mash. That's going to be a whole different other thing up there. Um, and single malt is still my thing. So I want to be able to show people what single malt can do and kind of gracefully get them into peat and challenge them there. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. Um, so Mark JG, are you trying to find some more Glen Scotia 12? We'll have to see what we can do for you on that one. I might know where a couple of them are. For sure. So yeah, so that Talisker 10, man, that's hard to beat. Springbank 12 or Springbank 10, that, again, yeah, that would be a really good one. So Kathy just went all in for Port Charlotte 10, and they're just like, yep, that's me. Um, that's me. Oh, Mark, I love you to death, friend. All right, I'll look out for you for another, for sure. And yeah, that Port Charlotte 10 is so money. Um, such good stuff. I It was funny because I was like, I'm pulling bottles and like, I have a lot of peated whiskey. It probably need to do like a column in my spreadsheet if it's peated or not. I probably have 40% of my whiskey is peated. Um, but yeah, I was trying to see what else. I'll tell you another Holyrood. So the Holyrood's inaugural was very interesting because it just had a little bit of peat in it. That one was a really good. Is it the Ember that they have? Again, Scotch drinkers only are pulling in Hollywood for the US. That one was really nice and very balanced on the peat. Um, More of a smoke influence to me than an earthiness. Um, but yeah, the other is Rasse. Rasse is another good one to start someone out on peat. Um, when you look at the Saya or their entry level, half of it is peat, half of it is unpeated. So that's a balance right there. And then the different types of cask, the virgin oak, red Bordeaux, and the Chinkapin. Trying to think which ones. Yeah. Yeah. See, I got you. It is. It's a really nice introduction to the peat. And I'm sure they use a Highland peat too. From the way it tastes to me, I would imagine it's a Highland peat. So, um, that's cool. Um, so Rick's saying that he thinks any of the Ardnahoes would let people slide into peat relatively well. Yeah, I think so. For the ones that I've had a taste of, nothing over like beat you over the head with. I think I even found it kind of funny. I was like, oh, it's right next to Bunnahabhain. Of course, it's going to be gentle. It's going to be nice and approachable like that. Um, but yeah, you've been there, and I know also an academy person, and it's just a beautiful distillery. I'm so glad they're doing some really good things. Um, I want to have some of Roy's Ardnahoe that he's put out. I haven't been able to grab any of that yet. But I'm sure I'll get a dram of it one way or the other. Graham's talking about Ben Romick. Oh, Ben Romick's. And of course the Highland Park, in your opinion. Yes, those are some nice, gentle, approachable drams for sure. I love it. Well, awesome. Yay. Um, Sugar Kitty's got to vote for Mocker Bay. Yay. Yeah. Um, that's it. You know, Jura is weird because they say that they don't really use peat, that they pick up the peat out of their water source. And I'm like, I don't know if I really hold on to that. I think if they do, like, it's after when they're bottling it or something. But from what I understand, unless they've got, well, that superstition, I think, was peated malt. Um, but their non-peat is supposed to have peat influenced water. So I don't know. Ardnamurchan is really interesting to me because that one, I don't get a lot of peat on the nose. Hardly ever do I get. I might get a whiff of smoke, but I don't get a lot of peat on the nose. But good gravy as soon as I drink it. Yep, there it is. Jennifer and I did a camp dram in the boat in the swamp, and both of us were like, "Is this peated? I don't know. Is it peated?" We take one swig, and it was like, "Whoa, yep, it's peated." That to me is Ardnamurchan. Across the body of water, over at Tobermory and Lechag, is some of the best peat to me. To me, Lechag is very well balanced on the peat and flavor. One of my favorites on that for sure. Goodness. So you had a friend who asked them about the Ardnahoe and they loved it. So complex for a young whiskey. Isn't that crazy? They were doing some really good stuff. And to me, that all is attributed to their spirit that went into those casks. They're making really, really good spirit. You're so funny, Sugar Kitty. Yes, it is. Check. I think Jennifer, that's what we had out there on the balcony one night, right? In Houston. Was that 18? Oof, good stuff. Mm-mm-mm. Goodness. Well, guys, I hope you had fun with this tonight. Truly, we could talk. We could do a whole series on peat, right? Just peat with cool cask maturations, or we could talk about different types of peat and different expressions per type. You could just go on and on. The whole sustainability thing is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Um, you know, to me, in the big scheme of things, harvesting peat for some whiskey is the lesser of many evils in the world when it comes to pollution. So I really don't see how that is the I don't see how that's a detriment to the world in the big scheme of things when there are so many other people that are such huge offenders. Um, so that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I know people want to be responsible, and there's the SWA, and the whole industry has hit some marks about where they want to be sustainability wise. But peat is an integral marker of flavor for the largest export that they have. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to continue. I don't think that sheep dung is going to take over the market anytime soon. And if it does, Mark JG will have no part of it. I promise you. Excuse me. But yeah, no, it's been good to get back on. I'm so glad the microphone actually worked tonight. We are going to try, we have to see about doing a show in November. Things are going to get kind of crazy here in the next 2 months. But I'll keep you updated on socials, Patreons. I'll keep you up to date on what's going on and what things are happening. But yeah, it's just a different era. We're going into a different chapter. Mark and I are very excited about it. Like any big change, it's scary as hell. I'm not going to lie. It really, really is. But I've always tried to be proactive about my life and not let things just happen. This is going to be another one of those things is we're trying to be proactive about this and get ourselves in the best position to see our retirement time out, which is going to be very close to an international airport that flies directly into Glasgow. Just saying. So thanks y'all very much for being here tonight. I love seeing everybody here. Appreciate it very, very much. Yes, smaller mosquitoes, lots of turkey, deer, and bears, from what I hear. So that we're gonna have to sedate the dog. Rue's gonna have a cow. Like it's just we're gonna put a GPS tag on him because if he sees a deer and takes off, he'll be in North Carolina before we can get to him. But yeah, thanks y'all, everybody. I appreciate for y'all being here. And I will let you know when we're gonna be on again, what we're gonna be doing. But until then, be well, drink even better, and slanja y'all.